The doomed Arctic balloon expedition that vanished for 30 years. In 1897, Swedish engineer Salomon August Andrée had a plan to travel the North Pole by hot air balloon. Along with his two companions, Nils Strindberg, a photographer, and Knut Frænkel, a physicist, Andree was determined to make history. The expedition was not successful, but Andree succeeded in making history for a completely different reason. Hello and welcome back to Eccentric History. Today we're talking about the doomed Arctic balloon expedition that vanished for 30 years. On July 11, 1897, the three men lifted off from Svalbard, Norway, and were never seen again. For 30 years the fate of the expedition remained a mystery, until a Norwegian seal hunter discovered their remains on the remote White Island. What led to this? Well, that is exactly what we'll aim to look at in this video, but before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content. So let's dive in. What prompted the expedition? Salomon August Andrée, the Swedish engineer who led the ill-fated expedition to the North Pole by hot air balloon, was driven by a desire to make history and achieve what had never been done before. There was a lot of interest in Arctic exploration in the late 1800s, and many nations competed to be the first to reach the North Pole. Andree decided to join the expedition with the intention of becoming the first to reach the North Pole by air because he saw it as an opportunity to make history. The idea of using a hot air balloon to go to the North Pole was considered to be a daring and ambitious endeavour at the time because they were a relatively new form of transportation. Andree was confident that he could reach the North Pole and fulfill his lifelong ambition to become famous as an Arctic explorer with the correct tools and supplies. In addition to his desire to make history, Andree was motivated by a sense of adventure to explore the unknown. Like many early explorers, he was driven by a spirit of discovery and a fascination with the natural world. Despite the risks and challenges involved, Andree was determined to pursue his goal and make a name for himself in the annals of Arctic exploration. His ill-fated expedition remains a testament to the courage and determination of early explorers and their quest for knowledge and adventure. How did they plan for the trip? The tragic hot air balloon trip by Salomon August Andrée to the North Pole was methodically planned over several years. In addition to trying to be the first to fly to the North Pole, the journey was planned as a research mission. The balloon, which was especially made to endure the harsh Arctic environment, took Andree several years to conceive and manufacture. The basket of the balloon, which was constructed of a tough silk material, was intended to accommodate 3 passengers as well as supplies and equipment. A variety of scientific tools such as telescopes, cameras and recording equipment were provided for the mission. To ensure their survival during the voyage, the crew also packed along a sizable amount of food, clothing and other supplies. In addition to the balloon and scientific equipment, the crew also included 3 members with specialized skills. Nils Strindberg was a physics professor and photographer. Knut Frænkel was an engineer, and Andree himself was an experienced balloonist. The crew's route was planned to take them from Svalbard, Norway to the North Pole, and then southward to Canada. The journey was expected to take several months, and the crew prepared for the extreme conditions they would face by training in skiing and sledging, as well as studying the Arctic environment. Despite the meticulous planning, the expedition was plagued by a series of setbacks, including bad weather, equipment failures and supply shortages. What happened? On July 11, 1897, the trio launched their balloon from Svalbard, Norway, but sadly the voyage didn't go as anticipated. The crew was carried out over the Arctic Ocean rather than in the direction of their intended goal due to a series of weather delays and navigational mistakes that forced the balloon to veer off track. They finally had to make an emergency landing on the pack ice after drifting for many days. They spent the next several months struggling to survive in the harsh Arctic environment, attempting to reach land by dragging their supplies over the ice. But as winter set in, their situation became more desperate, and they were ultimately forced to set up camp on the ice and wait for rescue. Despite their efforts to survive, the 3 men succumbed to extreme conditions and perished. For 30 years, the fate of the expedition remained a mystery, until 1930, when their remains, along with their journals and photographs, were discovered by a Norwegian seal hunter on the remote White Island. The crew's last few days were partially revealed through the journals and photos. They kept track of their movements, food supplies, attitudes, and whereabouts. The journey's specifics, the crew's health, and the food supplies were all mentioned in Andree's notes, whereas Strindberg's journals were more contemplative and personal. Frænkel's were more analytical. The logbook and photos were still present, and the expedition's frozen bones were found next to their tent. Almost 200 photos taken by Strindberg during the expedition gave a unique look at the team's experiences and challenges. The expedition's fate is still unknown despite the considerable documentation. There are a number of theories of what caused their demise, but none of them are supported by clear evidence. What the journals had to say. The journals kept by Salomon August Andrée, Nils Strindberg, and Knut Frænkel, the three members of the ill-fated expedition, provide some insight into the crew's experiences and struggles during their final days. The voyage, food supplies, disposition, and geographic positioning were all mentioned in Andree's notes. He recorded his observations of the Arctic environment, such as the beauty of the icecapes and the behaviour of the polar bears, as well as the expedition's progress. Strindberg's notebook was more intimate and thoughtful, recording his ideas and sentiments regarding the journey and the difficulties he encountered along the way. He took more than 200 photos which served as visual record of their experiences. The more scientific journal kept by Frænkel contained information and observations about the expedition's physics. He recorded the balloon's flight height, temperature, and other relevant variables. One of the most important sources of information is the journal of Salomon August Andrée. Throughout the voyage, he made notes about the route, food supplies, mood, and location. Andree's journal began on July 7, 1897, 4 days before the launch of the balloon. He recorded the weather conditions, noting that the wind had picked up and was causing some difficulties with the preparations. He also wrote about the supplies they had brought with them, including food, equipment, and clothing. Once the balloon was launched on July 11th, Andree's journal entries became more frequent and detailed. He recorded the altitude, temperature, and other factors related to the balloon's flight, as well as his observations of the Arctic environment, including the beauty of the icecapes and the behaviour of the polar bears. As the expedition progressed, Andree's journal documented the crew's struggles with hunger and exposure to the extreme Arctic environment. He recorded their efforts to find food and shelter, as well as their attempts to signal for help or locate land. In his final entries written in October 1897, Andree's journal reflects a growing sense of desperation and hopelessness. He records his thoughts and feelings about their situation, expressing his frustration and despair at their inability to find help or make progress towards safety. The photographs taken by Nils Strindberg, the physics professor and photographer, provide a unique visual record of the crew's experiences and struggles during their final days. Strindberg's images capture the enormous expanse of snow and ice, the dramatic sunsets and sunrises, and the diverse species including polar bears and seagulls to convey the breathtaking beauty of the Arctic environment. The pictures serve as a visual record of the crew's adventure, charting their advancement as they made their way over the pack ice in search of safety. Images capture the balloon and basket floating over the ice, as well as the crew's sledges and gear being dragged across the ice by their crew members. In addition to the scenic and documentary photos, Strindberg also captured a series of portraits of the crew, providing a glimpse into their individual personalities and expressions. These images show the men smiling and joking, as well as looking tired and worn out from their difficult journeys. Possible theories. The fate of the doomed Arctic balloon expedition remains shrouded in mystery, with several theories proposed over the years to explain what may have happened to the crew. However, none of these theories have been definitively proven, and the true cause of their demise may never be known. One explanation contends that after becoming stranded on the pack ice, the three men perished from exposure or famine. They would have faced major obstacles in surviving in the harsh Arctic environment, and a shortage of food and shelter may have contributed to their eventual extinction. This argument, however, is unable to explain why they would have been on the ice for as long as they did without making an effort to call for assistance or signal for help. Another theory contends that the crew's suicide may have been an act of desperation. They may have committed suicide because of the difficult circumstances and the lack of hope for help. Nevertheless, there is no hard data to back up this notion, it's completely circumstantial. A third theory proposes that the crew may have been attacked by polar bears. Polar bears are a common hazard for Arctic explorers, and an attack by one or more of these animals could have led to the crew's demise. However, there's no conclusive evidence to support this theory, and it fails to explain why the crew would have remained on the ice for so long without attempting to find help or signal for rescue. Another theory suggests that the crew may have succumbed to trichinosis, a parasitic disease caused by the consumption of undercooked meat infected with the larvae of Trinchinella worms. The crew's journals suggest that they did hunt and consume polar bear meat during their expedition, and the undercooked meat may have led to their eventual demise. However, there's no evidence to support that theory, and the bodies of the crew were cremated shortly after their discovery, making it impossible to test for the presence of disease. Lead poisoning from the lead-laced cans of food, botulism, scurvy and other diseases have also been suggested as possible causes of the crew's demise. However, there's no conclusive evidence to support any of these theories, and the true cause of their demise may never be known. Despite the tragic outcome, the story of the doomed Arctic balloon expedition remains a testament to the bravery and determination of early Arctic explorers. Today, their legacy lives on, inspiring new generations to explore the great unknown. So what do you think about the doomed Arctic balloon expedition? Would you have taken the same risks in the pursuit of adventure? Let us know in the comments below. We'll be back soon with another interesting story. Hit the bell icon so you never miss another video.